And say where we're from too. I don't know.
I'd like to welcome everybody tonight. We're going to get this opened up and hopefully have a good debate on some stuff that you people are thinking about. And I would like to make one other request is when you want to open your mic, or if Donna opens your mic, could you tell us who you are and turn your cameras on so that we have a visual, because it just makes it a little bit more polite on this end to see who we're associating with. So I will give the mic to Donna and she can open it up, and 3 questions to begin with, and then we'll do a round robin if we've got time. Your hand?
Yeah, raise your hand, and I see someone has unmuted. And if that person is,
Ripple.
yeah, if they would
If I
like
pronounce it
to
right.
go ahead. Yeah. Okay, well, how about we start with the names that we can see then? The first one we have is Arlene. Did you have anything you'd like to say, Arlene?
Mic is muted.
Yeah.
There we go.
Okay, see her.
You just have to unmute your mic, Arlene.
Sorry, no, I don't have anything to say at the moment.
Okay, that's okay. If you think about it, just let us know.
Will do.
Okay. It's nice seeing your face too, by the way.
Thank you.
Next one, Carla.
Carla, are you there? Muted?
How about Karen Burton?
Hi, I got nothing. I just wanted to join and see what the news was and what council had to present to the community.
Thank you.
There's someone online with the initials LMF. Okay, how about Mike?
Yeah, he's muted.
MR? Whoever MR is? Oh, here we go.
Oh, like when we say the mic muted, is that us or that?
No, they all come in on mute, but they can unmute at home. Yeah.
Okay.
MR was on.
Yeah.
Unmuted.
Did you have anything to say with the initials MR?
Maybe didn't.
Oh,
Something went right. I'm sure.
we can see you unmuting, but we can't hear you.
Can Kurt hear us? But
Kurt, you can hear us, eh?
This is Terry Ross. I can hear you guys just fine.
Terry, do you want to go ahead with your questions then?
Hey Donna, I had sent the questions for you in an email, but just give me a second here and I can pull them up.
We have them here, Terry. If, did you want Donna to read them out so that everybody has an idea what you wanted to ask?
It might be
Do you
quicker.
want-
It might be quicker if you read them out as opposed to me finding that email.
Okay.
Not a problem. So Terry had 4 questions. So the first one was, could council commit to budget for a detailed analysis of existing and future traffic patterns on Grand Valley Road that contributes to the flow of traffic onto and from Gray Road in a phased approach, so as to, 1, create a plan that would improve traffic safety on Grand Valley Road, and 2, create a plan that would improve traffic safety and flow on Gray Road.
So for myself, that's basically a 2-part question and it revolves around the traffic on Grand Valley Road as well as the traffic on Gray Road, because they both contribute to each other. And you can't fix one without impacting the other. So I just wanted to know if you guys would consider budgeting for an analysis of that to make things safer for everybody. And it would involve some collaboration with the province, because I understand Grand Valley Road is a provincial highway.
You're correct, Terry. We have a new individual took the reins over from Herb Mahood. Denise Jubenville has stepped back down to her original position. We have got a feeler out for them to try and sit down with the new individual to meet him and to do some collaboration with him about that Grand Valley Road on a few issues. Now, it would be helpful from your point of view if you could kind of give us an idea of what your thoughts or your neighbors, if you've been collaborating with them, about what you would like us to bring forward to that meeting once we get it set up. I'll tell you what I was thinking of. The first thing on my mind was to continue the 70-kilometer zone from Turtle Crossing to number 1 highway. That's a 90-kilometer zone now. I don't know if they would invite that, but I would like to have that on the table. The second thing is about the plug at the east end of 18th Street, to try and come up with some kind of agreement that that plug isn't going in and out at the city's beck and call, because they are playing that game that they're not responsible for it going in and out, and the province is saying that it's up to the city when it goes in and out. So we got to kind of get on a better playing field there on who's responsible. If we can set up something that is going to be a little bit on the more permanent side, and everybody get on a better page, for lack of words. I'd like to see what your thoughts are on both those issues, or if you have something else in mind in relationship to that Grand Valley Road. And you are totally correct about it being a provincial road. We have to keep in mind that sometimes they are hard to deal with, but I'm ready to sit down with them and try and figure something out.
Yeah, we've kind of touched on this stuff in the past, in the November
Right.
meeting. A couple of issues here. Road doesn't have a shoulder. There's farm machinery that use that road. There's no turnoff from Grand Valley onto Gray Road. There's those trees at the bottom of the hill. There's all kinds of situations that need to be addressed to make that road better. You know, I'm not saying we need to put in a passing lane or anything like that, but certainly adding a shoulder for farm machinery would certainly help.
Could I get you, Terry, in your leisure time to email that to Donna, what you're doing, and just in case, I know she's writing it down,
Yeah.
but then that way we've got some collaboration behind us as well, that this is coming forward from the residents that live out there, okay?
I see people, cyclists from Brandon, people using Grand Valley Road all the time for exercise, for running, for walking, for bicycling, and there's some dangerous curves on that road, and it's a matter of time before a cyclist, a pedestrian, is going to get hit by a piece of farm machinery or by a vehicle. So.
It used to be the best road. I've had guys tell me it used to be the best road to test out motorcycles because of those curves. And I don't know anybody in my mind that would want to be doing 100 mile an hour or whatever they're doing around that curves at that west end. That just blew me away when I heard that comment.
I've pulled a few young drivers out of the ditch on that road.
I believe it. Sam's got a question.
Terry, that's a good starting point. Start with MIT because you deal with government. It's going to take some time to set up a meeting, but definitely I will support lobbying the individual in charge of local MIT to see if we can get it down to 70. That's the first thing. But as we heard it in the public hearing and also in the Grand Valley Residents Night, that's for the other people. You were there, Terry. For the other people, Gray Road is a major concern. And we, like I said before, and I'm basically gonna tell the other ratepayers that don't live in that area, we did have municipal engineer provide to us a proposal to do a study and see what must be done. I will put that on the budget. I can't make any promises. There's 5 decision makers here. I will put that back on the budget. In fact, we're meeting with the engineer tomorrow. We'll, not about that, but of something else. I will basically verbally ask council to have him resubmit that proposal so it's ready in time to when we approve our budget. That's the first thing. We heard it loud and clear, and I'm going to reemphasize again, and I'm going to go into a few other things. We heard loud and clear. Nobody said no to a subdivision out there. There was 2 major things that stuck out in my mind over these meetings we had. Address Gray Road. That's the first thing we have to do. And I am committed.
Gray Road and water.
That needs, water, we'll maybe discuss that later on. But
Yeah.
basically, for now.
Terry's got it on his email.
Yeah, exactly. We'll get him to ask that question, but I am committed to work with council to get that feasibility study done. At a minimum this year, we're gonna have to put a timeline on it.
Sure.
And then basically, like I said before, there's gonna be a lot of work that needs to be done out there. We need to attack it in a almost 2-3 phase approach. But
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So that's my commitment for the residents out there and for the whole municipality. If it's a safety issue, that's what we have to deal with.
Yeah. And honestly, this is the work that I thought was happening when the Grand Valley Secondary Plan was proposed to us back in 2016. So, if no work has been happening in the last 5-6 years, then it's time we start that work.
Yeah. No, I think you're totally right, Terry, and I totally agree with Sam. I think we need to sit down before our budget and pencil it out or get an idea of what we need to pencil in there for a study and get that on the table, definitely.
Sure.
If I could just add one further thing, you had talked about the trees at the bottom of Gray Road in Grand Valley. So just for a little update, the province has actually tendered for the removal of those trees, and they were suspecting that it would be mid-February.
Those trees are in the government right away.
Oh, okay.
So they have control of them. I don't know if you realize that or not, but
No,
that's why it's been taking a little while, is because it's government again.
Yeah.
But
there will be.
it is
some
on the
movement.
docket.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you see them gone one day when you come home from work, you'll know that they're doing their job.
yeah.
So question 2 sort of is followed by question 3. They're both sort of the same idea, but question 2, could council commit to budget for a comprehensive analysis of existing groundwater quantity so as to determine the impacts of supply on existing properties, as well to better gauge the impacts of continued development on those existing properties. And to follow, question 3, could council commit to budget for a detailed analysis of the costs of entering into a water sharing agreement with surrounding municipalities in an attempt to provide a more sustainable supply to rural properties in the municipality?
Yeah, they were posed as two separate questions. I think they're two separate issues. First issue is about the existing water supply that we have in the ground right now. Any type of future development, what's that impact going to be to me and to people who have wells already? With the existing properties that are here, like if my neighbor to the north, south, east, or west turns on his taps, I want to know how that impacts my well before we allow any other development to happen up here. Whether it's 22, 250 lots, whatever the case may be, it'd be nice to know that we've got a 6-month supply of water, an 8-month supply, or it's not going to affect us at all before we really need to put the gas to the pedal to the metal here to get the next question, a sustainable water supply out to us in not just here in Eagle Ridge or Grand Valley Secondary Plan, but to all residents of the RM of Cornwallis.
I'd ask you the question, Terry, what would you think, which way would you want to do it? Would you want a study for what you have now, or would you want us to put the money on the budget to look at, say, tying into Alexander Co-op water?
That's why I posed it as two. That's why I posed it as two different questions, so you guys could debate that yourselves and
move forward.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, to that, Bill.
Sam has got a reply here.
That's a good question you got there. It's twofold. Again, we're meeting with municipal engineer tomorrow about a different issue. And again, if time permits, we will ask him just for his advice. I know engineers, they like to do studies and all that, but I had hoped 4 years ago when we approached the Elton Whitehead Water Co-op, and I'm telling you already heard that from me, but I'm seeing a whole bunch of other people on there. We approached Elton. The appetite wasn't there yet from them. This summer they came back with a proposal to do a cost share on a study. Another group of community wanted to tie in. What I want to basically would like council to run by a municipal engineer. What would it cost to do a feasibility study? He already hinted a couple of years ago that it's going to be very difficult or challenging is the word he used, to approve any subdivision up in that Eagle Ridge area where we just denied an application. And I didn't like doing that, but I felt very good because without knowing what it's going to impact your well, Terry, I felt we made the right decision. I think we need to do a study, and eventually we need to bring affordable water into that area. I just did quick math. I haven't shared that with council. We just denied a 25 lot subdivision. Let's say, and that's for every person that's listening out there, 25 lots long term. Let's say at today's current rate, it doesn't take too large of a house to assess that house at 400 grand. That's $10 million of assessment in a small area. However, yeah, we need that taxation, but before we approve things like that, we need the infrastructure. You need the services. You need gray road fixed, and you need pipe water in there. The minute you do that, it opens up another opportunity. There's another quarter section, half section to the north there. But the infrastructure, my heart has always been that area. It's a good place, but we got to get that road fixed. I'm not going to sound like a broken record, but you also need water. And this municipality has to really rethink the way that water sewer thing is going. when you look at do a business analysis, we just denied a 25 lot subdivision. That's $12 million a year once it's built out. That's a lot of cash. That takes the burden off every resident in this RN. If you can add subdivisions, not only out there in shaders, spruce woods, cottonwoods, but you have to have the services. I don't want to vote on something where I'm going to jeopardize any individual's well. And when those concerns were brought forth, I listened, and that's my position. I think there's great opportunities out there, but we've got a little bit of homework to do. So that's my commitment to all the residents out in that area.
Wonderful. Thank you.
And question number 4, could council look for cost savings and possible scale back unnecessary expenditures or sell unused equipment such as trailers in order to keep property tax rates at their current levels with a 0% increase?
Where I'm going with that is I'm a provincial employee. I work for a Crown corporation. I personally haven't had a cost of living increase in 4 years. And every year I've seen, just like everybody else, I've seen my taxes and my my cost of living increase. And this year it's at 4.8%. I don't think I'm going to see a cost of living increase myself. There's opportunities here for the RM to spend responsibly, to cut back on unnecessary spending, to sell unused equipment, to minimize any possible rate increase for ratepayers. That's where I'm coming from with this.
We held back taxes the 1 year. We came in at 0.01, I believe. Council didn't take an increase that year. And I'm going to make the suggestion that this year council does the same thing.
I will support that. In fact, I'll write up a motion.
So it's on my mind, Terry.
Well, you guys are ratepayers yourselves. Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah.
Oh, exactly. But we can't be self-sustainable 100% by not, I don't know if we haven't really set budget dates yet to talk about the budget per se, but I don't think that we're going to try and come in at 4.7% what the cost of living is. We're going to try and keep it at a moderate. We're still in a pandemic. People are still struggling for work. Our bloody groceries are going to be $1,500 or $15,000 a year for a family of 2 or 3.
Yep.
So you got to take all of that into consideration, and you got to be mindful of that. Otherwise, you're going to have a lot of tax sales.
Yeah, exactly. We're working for a Crown corporation. We've had to operate at a 5 to 7% vacancy rate. So I know it's possible that you can always trim the fat somewhere. So it's just, I'm asking you to look inwards.
Well, we're down a part-time employee in the office. We haven't replaced Shelley, and the 2 girls, they've been overworked with this pandemic at different times, and they don't hear it enough.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And all
kudos to the
yeah.
staff, and
Exactly.
the same as our employees on the graders. We're down a grader right now. There's been not very many complaints that I know of about those roads not being open because they're working around the clock. That one grader, I don't know if it's been shut off since we lost the other one. And the other one, the parts are sitting in somewhere Timbuktu down there that they can't ship right now because of what we're in, So I really appreciate people letting the boys know what kind of job you're doing, what the staff is doing. I don't care about council. You guys can figure out what you want about us. We're trying our damnedest with what we got to work with in our times, but don't take it out on the staff. That's all I'm asking.
Donna? Donna? Yes, it is. At the next council meeting, I will bring forward a resolution that all councillors will forego the cost of living rates and return it to the council coffers. I will not take any raise whatsoever. And I think council should follow me, and I will bring forward that resolution.
Awesome.
Okay, I've got a comment. I'm gonna take it a step further. I'm gonna challenge every council. I wanna go back to Terry. Terry, a key word you mentioned there, opportunity. There is so much opportunity that we can look at. I'm not a big favor of rushing through this budget that we're gonna start. I wanna see it be transparent up on the screen. I want people to watch this, debate it, and go through line by line and look at every cost saving opportunity that's at our fingertips before we even think what the budget increase or decrease will be. There's many opportunities out there if we look at it properly. And I'm gonna also suggest council, I'm gonna put food on their table to think about it, to stop going to so many conventions. I think there is, when I went through my budget sheet today, because I'm thinking you people challenge us on money. And I checked off numbers of things that we're not gonna debate it tonight. There's many cost savings opportunity there to offset any tax increase. And I'm willing to, if we're gonna have to be here till the night before the council approves the budget, I'm willing to do it. Yeah, and I think we need people's help. And you made a couple of comments there, Terry, that I wrote down here, opportunity. There is lots out there. Yeah, so that's, you've got my back on, and feel free to email it to Donna, email council. Our emails are out there. Folks, we're in it together, and we'll make this work.
Right on.
Who's next?
How about, can we go back to Carla? Carla, can you try?
hear me?
I can hear you. There you are.
Hey, Carla.
Sorry. Hi, guys. I'm technologically challenged. I want to start off. I have 3 questions, but I wanted to start off with a comment, which is I really appreciate the Zoom link being posted publicly without having to request that information, because I remembered at 5 to 7 that I was supposed to be jumping on for the meeting. So I wouldn't have been able to join otherwise. And so I appreciate that being posted. So thank you for that. My first question is, I was wondering if council could take a minute or two to explain what the process is for becoming a candidate if they're interested in running in the next municipal election.
Go ahead, Bill.
Carla, I think they elected me to give you a little rundown here. So I don't have any of the information at my fingertips, so dates are not going to be like a formal date here, but they haven't even scheduled our training sessions yet, but I know that a lot of people are interested in council. So I believe it's in the month of May sometime is when the nomination period will start for the position of Reeve. And for the position of councillor, it's June. So we'll go through the nomination period. Those that are interested will pick up the packages from here in the office. You'll get your required signatures that you need to run. And then there'll be a time frame when you have to hand that in. When the deadline is done, we will either have acclaimed positions and not have to hold an election, or we will have enough people running that we will have to hold an election. And that election is in October.
Carla? Carla?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, you can give me a call or anytime when you want to discuss something about running for council. It is my 20 years, it's my last hurrah. And I have a few pointers I think that would be worthwhile for you or not, but it's up to you to choose. So feel free to give me a call anytime. 76
Thanks.
357.
76.
4357.
Thank you, Kurt.
You're welcome.
Anything else, Carla?
Yeah, I have two more questions. So the second question I had was there any further discussion or consideration for a firefighting or community well in the area of Cottonwoods, Waggle Springs area? And in addition to that, any tire kicking of the idea of a volunteer fire brigade?
Those are good questions. The first thing is we have to figure out where it would go, whether the land is going to be donated or whether we have to buy land, and then we'd have to put a plan together for drilling to see before you bought that land if it will be sustainable for water and stuff. So I don't know what the next step would be right off the top of my head, other than we would maybe get an engineer involved or look at land parcels that we could move ahead on that.
Yep, I'm good. Yeah, just, Carla, that's a good question. Bill, explain. I've got 6 questions here that came from the first meeting, and I believe you were in person here. It's on here, well around Keller Farms. And the reason I picked Keller Farms, there's 3-phase power already there. And we all know in that Shiloh area, whoever lives in that Shiloh, Spruce Woods, Cottonwoods area, you folks are blessed with well water, not too far down the quality. I mean, that's at least you got water. But one of the things we have to do when that came up, I think administration needs to reach out to Paddock or to M&M Drilling, who have drilled many irrigation wells out there. So I don't think we need to get an engineer involved. Get our feelers out to those folks. See where is the best location. That was a great idea you brought forward. And I think once we get those costs, hydro, and then maybe we can make it as a budget item as well. Once we, but I think the first thing we have to do is talk to M&M or Paddock to see location. Yeah, when I'm thinking of 300 gallon a minute well, that just off top of my head, that's a lot of water to fill a fire truck. And I'm sure those irrigation pivots out there are a lot more than 300 gallons a minute, but that's on one of the 6 questions that came up from the first meeting. So it's definitely in the queue box.
Thank you for that. And my final question is, I've heard from a few neighbors that they don't want weed spraying in their ditches. One particular person in our neighborhood had a loss of their trees. They think because of the weed spraying. I know I personally don't want weed spraying. I cut my ditch. So I was wondering if council had ever considered or would consider as a cost saving measure to move to an opt-in system rather than an opt-out system. So if somebody had issues with bad weeds in their ditch, they could contact the RM and say, I do need this section sprayed. Otherwise, the default would be it wouldn't be sprayed, because I know even in my neighborhood, there's farmers, depending on what crop they have, they don't want certain things sprayed near their crop for drifting and whatnot. So I just thought perhaps that could be a significant cost saving, considering the weed spraying has been a hot topic of discussion. Maybe that could solve multiple issues.
The only problem I see with that, Carla, is as long as the ditch was going to be cut, it wouldn't be a problem. But because we're mandated by the government with certain types of noxious weeds, we are held responsible for that. I don't know what other solution it would be other than cutting it. Goats, I guess, but you know, that would have to be taken into consideration if it was an opt-in plan an opt-in system. Does that make sense? I don't know if a lot of residents realize that we are mandated by the government on certain types of weeds, that we have to control them. Now, not necessarily in every area there is those weeds or all of those noxious weeds in certain areas, But if a person wanted to opt out of that system about spraying and they're gonna cut the ditch, I don't see a problem with looking at that myself.
And it would be better to be in the opt-out, because we do have some organic farmers in the south
Yeah.
that write us a letter to say, don't spray it to whatever location that they have their farm, that they have the organic crops. So if we have a list of that, they don't get sprayed, and then it could be quite easily done for anybody else that wouldn't want it along their property.
Yeah, I'd rather save the weed spray on my mile stretch and have calcium chloride instead, because I do cut my entire property line, and I would go so far as to even cut my neighbors if that, I just planted several trees and I want them to stay alive because of the dust, the dust is a
Very
major issue.
understandable, Carla. Sam wants to make a comment.
This is budget and those numbers will have to be plunked into the line items. It's gonna be an opportunity for us to look at it. The contract is up. The tender, the tender, in my opinion, needs to look totally different than last year. And we've already discussed it, just so you know. I suggested to council and to administration to reach out to an agronomist. I want the answer this year. The strength, how many acres? Actually, just as of 2 weeks ago, we didn't even know how many acres we're gonna spray. We need to set the goalposts and basically put it in that tender. How many miles, the boom width, and there's 3 other major players that are now interested in this tender. But they've got some suggestions for council. We will look at it, but I'd like to hear it from an agronomist. Are we doing the right thing? The comment, yeah, you're mandated by the government. Last year, Elton didn't spray. So it's our neighboring municipality, because they got what my understanding is, they had a quarter or a half section of canola that got a whiff of the 2,4-D. That's the same chemical we were spraying. It got stunned and there were some issues out there. I think we need to reach out to that community as a council as a whole and start asking questions. Are we really doing the right thing? We're only going 25 feet in the ditch, so being mandated, if there's another 25 feet, well, are we doing the right thing? Either we spray the whole thing or nothing. I mean, we need to look at it, and that tender, I'm gonna really suggest to council, we need to hammer this out. There's an opportunity there perhaps to decrease our chemical, whether it's combined or whatever, but we need to make it a comprehensive tender that they buy the chemicals they're basically involved, and we need assurance that it's gonna be done right. And an agronomist signs off on it, but we need to see what the agronomist has to say.
Well, I appreciate that answer. Like I said, I'm just worried about killing my trees, and for the quarter mile that I'm allocated, I would rather have that money spent differently for my purpose, and everybody's got their own agenda. So I appreciate the answer. Thank you for your time.
Not a problem. Excellent questions. But anytime.
Good evening. I'd like to ask a question about the spraying.
Go ahead. What's your name?
Lynn Forbes. And I'll skip the video because I'm out in the barn working and I'm moving. Anyways,
Now I got that.
Anyways, I will comment on your spraying issue. I do agree for some people. I understand they want to opt out because of the trees. However, they do need to maintain those ditches and take care of those weeds because they spread for everyone else to have to deal with. Now, as far as your weed spraying goes, I do weed spraying myself, and we've started to get our weeds under control here a lot more. But I've also done a lot of research on weed spraying for the specific weeds we're trying to control here, what time they should be done, what type of weather you need to have, drift. Many of these weed sprays that you're using for spurge control, you aren't supposed to spray when it gets above 24, 25 degrees. those sprays aren't rain fast, so you have to wait until the dew is dried off in the morning before you spray. And the fellow that was spraying this last year, I was out picking bales early in the morning because it was so hot, and saw this outfit coming down the road. Wasn't quite sure what it was, but I was up in the tractor, so I was kind of able to see when he turned the corner. So I went and chased him down because there was lots of heavy dew that morning. So he shouldn't have even been out spraying then. He was actually probably a month late even starting to spray. So I chased him down to ask what he was spraying with and if he'd talked to the company to find out the specifications for that spray. He wasn't even aware of what the specifications were for the spray. So you totally wasted your money. And then it didn't even have a week to work because the guy came along and cut the ditches about 2 or 3 days after he'd been out there spraying. So you just blew all your money because it takes a week for your spray to actually do anything. And just on the off chance that he might have known what he was doing, I actually went, because I took video when I was following him, and then I went back and I took pictures a couple of days later before the guy actually cut the stuff off to see if the spray had had any effect. Well, it kind of ruffled up the leaves around the outside of the wild rose leaves, and that was about it. But it really didn't have any impact because the spurge was so far along, it should have been done quite a bit of time earlier. So it was a colossal waste of money, and just really because a lack of knowledge, I guess. So that's something to consider. You can't really say your weed spray isn't working if it's not being done properly.
Do you not need to have a license in order to spray weeds?
Yes, you
Yeah.
do, Terry.
When you're we're farm. So we go get, like, we're classed under farm.
Commercial.
Yes.
I would,
the Commercial side of it has to have a license.
Can I make a comment? Last year, folks remember, there was a delegation to come before council. That whole weed spraying chemical application, that spoke to me. Still got the letter, and that's why I've already hinted to council, we need an agronomist to help us manage this. It was just in my opinion, it wasn't managed properly. We have an opportunity here to hone in on getting our chemicals, go to a professional. That's what an agronomist goes to university for, to tell us. We're elected officials. I don't know anything about weeds. I'll be the first one to admit. But I'm not going to throw my hands up. I'm going to say, let's go seek professional help, write that tender so we know where the goalposts are. Because the amount of chemicals from when I reached out to just inquire, because we were put a lot of pressure last year. Do you guys know how much chemical you're purchasing? When you look at the volume, it spoke to me. We gotta be smarter. There's an opportunity here to do it right. And I think we have to. So weed spraying is gonna be high on our list when it comes to budget, to see how much an agronomist is gonna cost. ACC, my understanding is, one of you folks texted me there a couple of weeks ago, there's agronomist, young people at ACC that might be able to help us out. These are the things we have to reach out for. Maybe it is cheaper to go that route, but I think there's an opportunity there.
Here.
Lynn, did you have anything else?
I don't know if that really well, it may apply to the budget. I guess part of my concerns are, what does council have in mind for developing conditions that the quarries operate under? Right now, like I emailed you this week, the only thing, my understanding anyways, the only place that the municipality references quarry operations is just under that one noise bylaw. There's nothing about work hours, days of the week, holidays, anything about the weed control. Like there again, we're talking about weed control, and you know, the major contributors to that, especially in the last 2 years since it's been dry, are the quarries. I know in my particular instance, before 2 years ago, we really didn't have a problem with kochia, or the tumbleweed that everyone calls it. But especially in the last 2 years, it's been I would say on our part, we've been here since 2012. And I would say there's been far more aggregate moved in the last 2 years than what there had in all the previous years that we've been here. And since it got dry in the last 2 years, and there's more dirt being moved, and they aren't doing anything about the weed control. And I have been looking at mines and minerals at the regulations, and they do specify their setbacks and the vegetative growth that they're supposed to be doing on the berms. They do talk about weed control, but that does not seem to be happening here. There again, I've tried to contact mines and minerals to see who's supposed to be regulating or policing these things, and I have not had one response yet. Now, talking to other people and people that have had experiences with this, they say that it's just about impossible to get any reaction from mines and minerals when it comes to those types of things. So it only makes sense for council to have conditions laid out, just like you do speed control, different things like that. So there needs to be conditions put in place that the quarries have to meet, just like everyone else, if they're going to be here, and we have to put up with them. And it's the same thing with this appeal coming up right now too. What's going to happen with that? I've been in contact with the RM of Rosser, because they were the very first appeal that was presented to the Manitoba Municipal Board. And I've got quite a lengthy bit of information from them. And they actually had made their own conditions, and they made a legal agreement with the quarry operators to meet those conditions. So they're actually doing things like testing well water. They actually have sound regulators that they keep track of what level of sound, how many decibels of sound those quarries are operating at. And one of the conditions was that the section of, or the 1 mile of road that the quarry had to access to get out onto the main highway, that quarry actually paid for the upgrading of the road, and they also pay for the maintenance of that road, because at the peak production, they expect as many as 250 trucks to be going out of that quarry every day. So we see in just our area, and I know there's many more gravel pits around, or many more quarries around in the RM of Cornwallis, but just in our little area here, the amount of dirt that's been excavated, I know for sure they aren't honoring the setbacks. There hasn't been anything done with all the weeds on the berms. They operate at all hours. The outfit that's directly west of George Friesen's place, there again, Sunday morning, I was out doing chores. It was just shortly after 7 in the morning, and they were banging away over there again. So I took a little drive after I was done chores, and sure enough, they're out there excavating and hauling out gravel. And they, like, there's lots of times that they're going 24 hours a day over there. Here it is the dead of winter, and they're still moving lots of aggregate. So there has to be some kind of plan in place. And I guess the thing is, it's the cost of doing business to them. If, like the way I see it right now, they're taking a lot out of the area. The rest of us are putting up with the stuff that goes on. We're putting up with the weeds that come from there. We're putting up with the dust and dirt, the unsightliness of it. There has never been, in the time that I've been here, or a lot of these sites that I go past that have been excavated, there's been no rehabilitation work done at all. So you're just left with an unsightly mess at the end of it. So I guess and I know you aren't responsible. A lot of these places have come along before you were in council. So I'm not pointing any fingers, but I'm saying, what's the plan moving ahead here? Because the quarries aren't going to go away. Of course, we don't expect them to, but there has to be a way to manage the business of the quarries and the development of the quarries moving ahead.
Glenn, can I make a comment here?
Mm-hmm.
We're, as a counselor, I hear that. It's been a challenge for the 20 years I've been on council. That quarry business has just exponentially increased. Last year, I recommended to the council, and I think we have to push on it. We need to hire a surveyor January 1st of each year. Whoever takes out a license, the condition is he's gonna go in there and basically survey the existing pit. December 31st, we're gonna go back and we're gonna see if his numbers and what's getting hauled out match. If gravel haulers or gravel pit owners are listening in here, that's just good business for the residents and for the RM of Cornwallis. Our roads are getting tore up. I know they pay gravel levy, but I'm just not quite comfortable just giving all these pit owners a blank check, and we've got no checks and balances in place. The technology that's out there now with drones, you can scan a quarter section within minutes I'm hearing. They can give you a report. You go back when that permit that the administration issues, that's one step. And we gotta find out what other municipalities, other jurisdictions are doing to keep the sites basically in good condition. You guys are living out there. We have to think about it. And that's dear in my heart. I brought it up last year. That's gonna be something that we need to reach out to. The only company that I know of area, it needs to be tendered out to go scan every gravel pit, because gravel is a challenging business for a council, for administration. We got to get our hands on it, and it's got to be done right, because when they're all excavated, all the gravel's gone out there, the value of that land is useless, then our tax revenue is gone, and yet we didn't really put a plan in place. But I'm going to bring it up how we can go about it, seek some outside advice from a surveyor, and look at these basically sites that are just site for sore eyes. Yeah, and we will lobby, and I'm going to lobby with that municipal board. We need professional help to lobby to help us with this rejection. I'm all in, and I think this council needs to sit down and help the people out there, because if we don't do our due diligence, and I'm not stopping businesses, I think we have to start thinking about our property owners out there.
Linda, which municipality, did you reach out to the one municipality you said that had?
Absolutely.
Okay, which one was it?
The RM of Rosser.
Okay, could I get you to send what their response was to Donna, so that we can review that and kind of go over it?
Absolutely. I have the lawyer's name.
We can pick and choose some stuff out of there that will help council manage these quarries a lot better than what has been happening. And I totally agree with you 100%. Like, we got to get control of them, because we've got a big area for aggregate. And again, I have a hard time agreeing to a conditional use, because we don't have control of those conditions, or maybe we don't look at putting enough conditions on them in our perspective that we have to work in. But when we cancel a conditional use, we lose a certain amount of control, which is about 95%, and it goes to the municipal board. That municipal board, we can only at that point make recommendations if they give us a chance. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So,
and that, yeah, I understand. And that is exactly why the RM of Rosser made agreements, legal agreements with the operator. So that's what I was asking them, how they actually regulate the conditions that have been set. And because it is actually a binding agreement with the council, or with, not with the council, but with the RM, then they are able to.
They don't get their conditional use unless they agree to that format, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And they have a weed control officer, and they have a bylaw enforcement officer that actually follows up on those things. So they don't have to go back to Mines and Minerals and say, oh, this guy isn't following the rules. They can handle it themselves.
If you could forward that information that you got, that would be very much appreciated on council side.
The other thing is too, I will add, I know for myself, because I've looked at moving, because of course that's always the thing that people say, okay, if it's such a problem out there, why don't you move? Well, part of the problem, you can't move because you can't get your money out of your place because we've got all the gravel pits there. If you look at other areas in the RM where they don't necessarily have the gravel pits, the prices are generally quite a bit higher and sold faster too in the same situation. Like in my situation, if I wanted to buy 80 acres with the same amount of buildings and the improvements that we've made here and be essentially the same distance from a town the size of Brandon with the same amount of amenities, I need to be pulling in at least 1.25 to $1.5 million to get relocated. And I could not sell my place for that here under the circumstances. So I guess that is a lot of my concern too. And I know the Manitoba Municipal Board, when I looked at their decision on that limestone quarry that they put through in the RM of Rosser, their whole thing was they're putting it through because they want to keep things affordable for all people in the province. Well, maybe they are, but they're doing it at the cost of some of the rest of us.
It's always, a lot of times it's the neighbors that suffer because the municipal board doesn't realize the impact that it's having on the people that are closely associated with that quarry.
Anyways, I will forward all of that information to you and be in contact because I'd certainly like to be a part of that municipal hearing.
Thank you.
Is there any other mail?
Yeah.
I'll read the mail.
Okay. I've got another mail-in list of questions here, and this is from Miles Robinson. The first question is, what is the annual cost, both fixed and variable, to maintain a mile of road in the arm of Cornwallis? And is this higher or lower than the neighboring RMs or Manitoba average? And why?
That's a good question. It'd depend on whether it's a haul road or whether it's an ordinary gravel road. Because there's a big difference in the cost, correct?
Well, we'd have to do some figuring to
yeah.
get those numbers for sure.
That's a good one. Can you maybe tell them administration will get all those numbers together and we will have it on the
Yep.
spreadsheet?
Yeah.
You know, just explain.
Administration will hammer that out and they will get back to you with an answer. And if anybody else needs that answer, could they let us know, and they will get the response as well.
Mr. Chairperson, I got a suggestion. That's a real good question. We should basically put that as part
We
of
could put it on our
website.
On our website.
That's what it costs. And but I totally agree with your comment there. A mile of haul road will cost different. A mile, there's sections of dust control out there that the council needs to sit down. What must all be included? Weed spraying has to be included. That's a greater cost. Hourly wage, benefits. It's
going to take a little bit to figure it out, but.
And we used to do that. We used to have that, what it costs, and I think that's a good one. I think to do a good cost analysis, I'd really like to, that'd be a good exercise.
But it has to be itemized.
Absolutely.
so that people understand what the actual cost is
That's
for
what
each mile, because it's not all the same.
Yeah, if you don't measure, you don't know where you are.
That's right.
There might be something very good to come out of this.
Okay. Number two is, what is the total tax revenue generated in each of the individual wards within the municipality? And what is the total road maintenance spent in each of the wards? So did I answer that question?
Yeah, go ahead.
From my perspective, so the ward situation is only for elections. It is not for the purpose of how we do business. When on our budget, we represent Ward 1 and Ward 2 for gravel, the only reason we have that is because we're divided by the river. there are actually sections of land that are included in the Ward 2 boundary that are included in Ward 1 because of the lay of the land and where the river flows. So it makes it more sense for us to break our tenders down into 2 separate tenders that way. But when it comes to actual tax revenue, the tax revenue is a municipality as a whole. The wards are really only there for election purposes, at least administrative wise.
Well, could I make a comment on this one?
Sure.
I wish this municipality would really consider doing away with the wards and elect at large. That way, any representative that goes and knocks on somebody's door for support, you now have to run, even though we are, and my records speak for itself, is to basically, you gotta look at every corner. That way, it takes away the wards, and you're basically, every person now that's elected has to look at it totally different. That's basically at the end of the day. I mean, yeah, and the CEO explained it bang on, because it's law, the 2-ward system, you need same amount of people. It just happens. Probably only 30% of the miles are on the north side and 70% of the miles on the south. It's the river and the population basically that dictates, because the wards have to be split equal. But if you go at large, basically at the end of the day, it takes away this ward stuff and all that. We're here to basically, at least I am, to basically do the business for every ratepayer. That's my opinion, and I'm gonna put it on the table for this council to look at that bylaw, and maybe there is an opportunity come this fall to go in at a large system.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it would be the fairest way.
Just to answer that, it will be coming to you right shortly because it has to be in place by the end of April. So
Good.
that doesn't give you very much time to get things in place for the
Yeah.
election.
I agree. I think we can have a good discussion on that.
Yeah. Okay, question 3. What steps have been taken to investigate bringing rural water to the Gray subdivision specifically within the last 60 days? And if no actions, what are the plans for action in the next 60 days? Kind of,
I'll answer that one.
yeah,
I reached out to the municipal engineer. I had to talk to him on another matter. And I did put a bug in his ear. He notified me that Donna has a meeting set up tomorrow with him on a different matter. I will ask the question, what must be done basically to get a water feasibility study done? From what I've seen of the 4 meetings we had with Elton, I just don't see, I think we're just gonna continue to have meetings and there's no traction. I think we're big enough, there's enough users out there, and plus on the south side of the river. I'm gonna basically suggest to council, quiz our engineer, give us a proposal to basically do a water feasibility study for Grand Valley and just on Richmond, there's quite a few holes.
Drainage.
Yeah.
no, this is for water.
Water, yeah, and we haven't met. I was a bit disappointed with the meetings we had with Elton. There's just no appetite, folks. And when there's no appetite, you just can't keep going having meetings because they were I call counterproductive. We need a step forward and a vision. It might be a 1, 3, 5-year plan, but we've got a subdivision basically on hold out there without any water. We're losing, I mentioned before, $10 million of assessments each year, if you do the math. And I'm not an economist, but this municipality is losing out every time we go to sleep, basically at night. If there's no plan, we're losing out, and we're gonna basically raise our hands to increase taxes. I don't wanna go there. I wanna look at opportunities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Question number 4, what steps have been taken to investigate improving the safety of Grand Valley and Gray Road intersections specifically within the last 60 days? And if no action, what are the plans for action in the next 60 days? What options for safety mitigation efforts is the RM looking to? So kind of answered that already.
Yeah.
Tomorrow, we'll know a little bit more tomorrow, and we will, basically, I'd like the administration, whatever we hear from our municipal engineer. I'd
We'll
like
post
to
it.
Post it,
Yep.
post it, to say our engineers, basically gonna give us a proposal.
It's with the engineer and also MIT.
Yeah.
So that's a double indemnity thing there.
I will make a comment here. I've seen some suggestions and I got a few texts to take Gray Road all the way to number 1 highway, folks. That is gonna be a dangerous situation because what you're doing now, yes, it would be easy to go to number 1 highway. We're now gonna be importing people from Rivers, Rapid City, back roads coming down Gray Road. So folks, I will dig in my heels to not, and our engineer has already warned us, never connect Gray Road to the number 1 highway because now you're setting yourselves up for more traffic. So that's the last thing you do, people.
Here, here.
And that has been that way for years.
Yeah.
The cost would be outrageous.
Yeah.
Besides that, you gotta go back to Marsden Road on the frontage road.
Yes, yeah, so, or eventually east, there is a plan to take that frontage road. We're hearing, east to Husky, but, folks, I don't, if our engineer has some concerns and puts up some flags, I think we better listen to it.
Have you got anything else?
I've got one more that was sent in from Mike Waddell. Good evening, Reeve, council and staff. Thanks for the opportunity to engage earlier than normal in the budget process. Last year, as part of the process, I spoke briefly about the concept of we, the ratepayers, as shareholders in a corporation in which you are the board of directors. As a shareholder who is asked annually to put forward my tax dollars, I would ask 2 questions. There has been considerable discussion in the past about increasing accountability for contractors for both efficiency and being fiscally prudent with tax dollars. One of the ways that industry does this is to track and measure materials, time, and results. With that in mind, when will this council invest in modern technology such as GPS for its contractors, such as gravel, spraying, and mowing? And then the other is, will this council also commit to finding the resources to examine the effectiveness of current fire and emergency coverage in this budget in light of a lengthy delay this past spring in relation to a house fire east of the old Chater turnoff? For reference, several accounts have stated that the response that evening was just shy of 1 hour from the time of the initial call.
Those are good questions, Mike. The response time, I'm not sure how we can get a handle on that. I don't know if that was the same night that there was a fire south on the number 10 highway and they went to it first before they went to the house fire. But once, I'd have to check into it to make sure, but once our water truck and the 1 fire unit is all dispatched from 13th Street, the way I understand it. So 13th Street is on the south side of Brandon. It at times is challenging to get through Brandon. Everybody knows, I'm not defending the Brandon Fire Department by any means, but we do not always get the whole story till way after. So I would have to check into that to make sure what exactly happened there, but I think that's what the problem was with the response time in that particular case.
Bill, there's been another conversation that's been happening on the sidelines here about the possibility of a volunteer fire department in the Cottonwood, Spruce Woods area there just outside of Shiloh. Is there any truth to what people have been saying that the services from the Shiloh Fire Department are scaled back to the residents that live outside the gate?
Go ahead.
The fire department still attends the fires within their jurisdiction within the arm of Cornwallis. Where the difference is that the Shiloh Fire Department ambulance is not allowed to do things the way they used to. And that is a province of Manitoba medical issue with the Shiloh ambulance. But the fire department still attends the fires within the jurisdiction area that we have an agreement with them for.
Okay.
And that's up to Brown Road, right?
I believe it's Brown Road.
Used
Yeah.
to be Brown.
Sorry, I missed that. What was that?
There is a boundary that's involved in that, and we think it's Brown Road without looking it up, Terry.
So does that cut off Chater from that service?
No, we're Brandon Fire Department.
Chater's Brandon Fire.
Yeah, Brown Road is about 4 miles east of the Chater, 468.
Okay,
Yeah,
gotcha.
468. If you go, there's
The
Brown.
stop sign.
Basically.
Yeah, basically almost at the, if anybody's familiar with
The
the
flashing stop
Veterans
sign.
Way, it's 1 mile west of the flashing light. That's where Brown Road.
The
goes north
stoplight,
side.
the stoplight,
Yeah,
Terry.
the flashing. Yeah.
Just gonna-
But no, I think Mike has a good question.
Yeah.
About the GPS.
Is he still on there?
What, no.
I don't, he
emailed
just
me. I don't think he
emailed
was
me
on.
in,
was
so
he?
I don't know if he was on.
So he had questions about the GPS system, about gravel mowing and spraying. Let's answer. Can I answer that, Bill?
Go ahead.
Okay.
Yes.
That's a great question, Mike. As you remember last year, it was about this time. Don't have the exact date. The CEO called a meeting with council and basically a company out of Saskatoon, first time I heard about or seen the presentation by a company called Connex Wireless. Was very, very interesting what 60%, I believe he mentioned 60% of the municipalities in Saskatchewan are now onto their system. This system is the same system as we use at our wells. It's satellite controlled, and the software that's out there is unreal. What they do, or what they sell municipalities, is devices that go into, let's talk the real language here. Let's say if we tender out our gravel contract. Right now, the tender, we put X amount of yards on there, and a stipulation that was brought in here, or a condition, part of that tender was we needed weight. At least it was a start. When this proposal was showed to us in January, February last year, I was really impressed. Very affordable. If you look at it from the money we're spending to the percentage of what this system costs. So what they do in each truck, they put in a device, is installed by Extreme Electronics on 18th Street. They're a certified installer for this area. Basically, they put it in these trucks and satellite tracks that truck from point A to point B. You still can proceed with the weighing. They recommend you still weigh, you punch in that weigh ticket, then satellite tracks that truck from point A to point B. And to make sure they can tell you how long that belly dump stays open, if he's going to McDonald's for lunch or if he's going back for another load. That's how accurate, and it's within 2 seconds of actual time. So that's what they give. Same with the graders. Basically, we need it, in my opinion, we need it on our graders. We need it on every vehicle this municipality owns. When you don't measure, we can't basically tell the taxpayers at the end of the day what's going on out there. All we can say is our tender reached 20,000 on the south side, 8,000 on the north, and then a few projects in between. We have no idea, no paper trail that somebody signs off on, basically that we have bought and guaranteed it going on the road. This company, in 8 months since that presentation last February, has increased their, how would you say, their technology, their software. They're a company that is looking for questions, and we had a lot of them, basically, and they upgrade their software. Council was hesitant. In fact, a resolution was brought forward. I'm going to be transparent here. I wanted it for a $200,000 job last year. I was the only one that supported it. Everybody else voted against it. And that's just facts. It's in the minutes. The concerns that were brought up, we're going to blow up engines. We're going to have a switch failing. Then we don't have that. They've already designed it in there. Within 2 seconds, if a wire breaks, if that switch in the chute fails, everybody that wants an alert gets an alert. That truck basically has malfunction. The reeve or the CEO phones that truck company, shut your gravel down. That's the way it should be. The technology, I just talked to him within the last 2 days here. And they have increased the technology. It's a no-brainer, folks. I gave them some numbers that from previous years of the amount of gravel, the grader costs, the police truck, the public works truck, our trailer, basically the miles that's being put on there. I used a number of $1 million. I had to give them something. Would you believe if we would buy these devices, it's 0.69% of that cost. Any counselor that would even hesitate. And I know there's a contractor out there or contractors that are hesitant to put in less trucks. I think the ratepayers have to say, tough luck. That needs to be a condition of our tender, and we are in the process of tendering our gravel out. I am going to speak up that needs to be incorporated, the scale, everything, the sampling, the technology, folks. I would encourage everybody to go on the website, Connex, and see what that system does. They've added 2 more devices since last year. I'm really impressed. 60% of the municipalities can't be wrong in Saskatchewan, and they understand that gravel and material hauling is a challenge. I'm going to challenge this council. No more pushback. I think it's time to look at it, because last year we had an opportunity in the summer, and that's what alerted me. There was just too much of a difference between the same pile of gravel. It was an $80,000 difference on that tender. The flags went up, but council chose not to. I think the ratepayers this year should lobby. That needs to be incorporated. And basically we can find it that costing out of the gravel budget. And the grader is something amazing. It can tell you the idle time, the travel time, and the blade time. And municipalities in Saskatchewan, if you listen to the presenters, they have become more efficient. They learn. That's what we want to do. We want to evolve. We want to get to the next level. I heard here tonight, the ladies are busy, and rightfully so. Well, what have we done to look at technology that will make things more efficient? And this system actually takes 95% of the work probably away from its administration. It's I'm really impressed with that Connex system. I think it should be an absolute no-brainer. And I want to hear what council has to say when the quote will come in, and basically see. And if we get resistance from any contractor, I think that's where council should say, just ask the question, why? Well, why are we scared? We're paying for it. All you got to do is do business as normal. And it's going to be uncomfortable for a lot of people, but I'm willing to go to bat for the ratepayers and measure and see how we're performing.
I have a question on that. It was my understanding that request to have the GPSs put in the trucks was after the tender was already awarded. So I'm not that I'm pro or against, but in fairness to the contractors that had the awards given to them, they may not have chose to bid on it had they known that was part of the deal. So I think it was kind of like mid-flight that came up. Perhaps now, when the new contract is awarded, we can be, looking at something like that where it's above board and everybody knows about it before it happens, kind of thing.
Carla, that's a great question. However, there was no cost to the trucking company. Right out of the chute, we're paying for everything. All we need is that truck for 1 hour. We're paying for everything. At the end of the day, my question was, why is a contractor or a counselor hesitant to put something on there when there is at no cost, absolutely no cost to that contractor? In fact, that would have been a good measuring stick. Any contractor that's going to go with that device is probably going to get other contracts in the municipalities. That's what's happening in Saskatchewan. When you talk to some municipalities, they're basically, they say the accuracy, it takes down all the invoice, a lot of the invoice work. There's no guess game. You can run reports daily, twice a day. Carla, I appreciate that, but I can't defend. It was the tender was the tender. All we want to do is put devices on there and just so we can monitor it to make sure whatever you bought goes on our roads. Because when there's an $80,000 difference on pricing from the same pile of gravel, from the same gravel pit, we have an obligation as elected officials to question why. That's all I did. I was quite vocal. I didn't agree with the way council went, but it was a council decision. This year, right out of the chute, before we even decide to go tender it, there is our chance to redeem the mistakes we made in the past and to become better stewards of what the question was, the shareholders' money. Transparent. There should be nothing to hide.
No, I'm, like I said, I'm not opposing it. I'm all for it. It's just that, as a business person myself now, when I write a contract with somebody, that's the terms of the contract, and I don't go adding something into the contract after it's been signed and awarded. So I'm just saying, in fairness to the contractors and to council, they were just maybe trying to honor that, the legalities of that. And now, like you said, we have an opportunity to do things differently moving forward, but I think it could be revisited.
There's a couple of things on the chat side here. So it might not be a good idea to not attend conventions to save a few bucks. You still need to collaborate with other municipalities and see what everyone else is doing. The next person said, I agree that not taking training or attending conventions is not something that should be taken off the table. A, new counselors need the training, and B, education is key to being better. Yes, I agree. They do need to know how others operate. The problem is these guys are making millions. Oh, I think we must be talking about gravel again. These guys are making millions and don't care. There's no accountability and fudged books. So you can blame them for running as much as they do. They have free reign. What is the annual convention for budgets? That does depend each year on how many go. And the last couple of years hasn't been a good indication because it's either been online or, nobody went. So
I'll make a comment. What I meant by that, Paula just said, the one convention was completely, canceled. We went Zoom. The technology is out there now. I'm a firm believer, we really want to go see them. And if there is a learning opportunity, go on Zoom. There's all kinds of, do it right from your living room. I'm just saying, if that opportunity there, or limit, come up with something. I'm not opposed to limiting 1 or 2 counselors go, and I brought that up last year. There's some, once we start crunching the numbers on the budget, we'll maybe expose some of the numbers, what it costs, and an opportunity to cut back. I'm looking at it from a personal point of view. I get more training from my workplace, and I don't expect everybody, because I'm probably the only guy with a full-time job here. I learn more and bring those ideas and concepts to this council chamber than I did at a lot of these conventions, especially the last 4 or 5 years. I'm really disappointed the province and EMM doesn't bring more kind of meat and potatoes problem solving issues out there. Yeah, there's all these little meetings. I personally don't see a cost benefit as far as I'm concerned.
we have Evan. Evan has his hand up here. Go ahead, Evan.
Hey guys, yeah, no, I got a few things. I guess just a comment in regards to the GPS chat there. Like, I would have no problem putting them in our company trucks for Corey Hills. So if that was a requirement of tender, that would not be an issue for me. We already have GPS.
Sorry about that.
We already have GPS. Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we're good.
Yeah, I would have no problem putting the units that Sam's describing in our gravel trucks and trailers. I wouldn't object at all. We already have GPS on all of our trucks. So it's something that, we're willing to provide data to support the work that we're doing anyway, regardless. Second thing was, there was just a lot of talk about gravel pit issues. And I was wondering if you guys ever considered like starting a gravel committee comprised of a couple counselors, a couple concerned citizens, and maybe a couple gravel company owners to tackle these issues kind of from all 3 sides. I would certainly, owning a gravel pit, be interested in participating. I can certainly empathize with the issues. I don't want to be, you got to find the balance between managing our pit properly, but and keeping our neighbors happy. So I definitely would welcome that opportunity. It might be a place to take gravel complaints and have them dealt with or adjudicated with maybe a little bit more balanced viewpoints, and maybe it doesn't have to come to council every time either. So that was just a thought I had tonight, hearing the concerns. I'm jumping around a bit on you guys here, but the other thing that I wanted to bring up tonight was procurement. And this is something I guess I'm looking for some feedback on, is what is the RM doing to improve, tighten up its procurement processes? The one thing I've noticed is that they aren't as robust as, say, the city of Brandon or some of the other entities. Like we lost a gravel tender a few years ago at one point based on a phone call to one of my staff members asking him how many trailers we had. And at the end of the day, had we won that tender, we would have saved the RM thousands of dollars, and we would have delivered based on our, our company's reputation. Whether or not we had a trailer in the yard at that exact moment wasn't really relevant from my point of view. I understand that you guys might have concerns at times about different ideas, but I think the procurement process needs to be tightened up. I question how we purchase equipment sometimes. I know that I've heard through the grapevine that our operators have preferences to CAT, and now I understand we have a CAT grader down and we're waiting on parts. It's just interesting to hear that, because from a costing standpoint, I'm very happy with a different provider. And when I have downtime, they provide me replacement equipment, no questions asked. So I really would like to see a more robust procurement process to ensure that we're spending the taxpayers' dollars in the most efficient way possible, and maybe not so much get into the politics. I mean, if you're concerned about somebody's ability to deliver, there are tools like bonding, just different tools to ensure that they're held accountable to deliver on a tender, that can protect the RM in a situation like that. So anyway, just some concerns about that. I don't know if you guys have any feedback on the procurement side right now. I would definitely welcome that. And then I have one final question.
Oh, we just lost you there for a second.
Yeah, I'm still here. I just wondered if you guys had any feedback on the procurement side. I was going to let you guys talk.
That's a good question, Evan.
I think answer that. We should all give an opportunity, all accounts.
Yeah, go ahead then.
No, I want in from the legal.
I think that we need to tighten it up a little bit too as well. We need to go over it a little bit better and review our contracts and what we're doing. And it's unfortunate that particular time that you're talking about, that was your contact information. Your man, which I understand was your foreman, should have elaborated a little bit better that, you could have rented trucks or whatever, but it's unfortunate that it ended up being that way. And yes, I think we need to look at what we're doing in a better way so that it makes it more fair for all of our contractors, whether they're residents or not. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense to me. The only thing I'll say is, I'm not crying over spilled milk as far as that goes. It just, to me, it shouldn't come down to a phone call like that at the last minute. That just seems a little bit wishy-washy, I guess, in a sense. And again, I understand that there's already been improvements to some of the policies. I'm very happy about that. I'm happy to see the direction we're going, but I really do think we need to really take a jump forward and ensure that across all fronts, our procurement processes are tightened up, that we're not just calling up certain contractors to do certain kinds of work. It should be tendered. There should be standing offers. We do tons of work for the city, for the military base, for you name it, all around you guys. And I definitely think there should be a more formal process to bid and have opportunity to do work within the RM, especially call up work. I know there's lots of small stuff that pops up here and there. Yeah, and I guess procurement on equipment is probably the biggest expense in the RM is those graders. And I really think there needs to be a really robust purchasing process on that side. And I know that the operators have a ton of weight when it comes to that, but I don't know. I have operators that work for me as well, and we need to do what's in the best interest of the company, not necessarily keep every operator happy. So, yeah, I guess just to not hold things up too much here. My last question or comment is, what is the RM doing to attract or incentivize development? And so there's the bare land development piece where guys are building lots, but what are we doing to attract people to move into the RM, whether it be business or residents? I think looking at last year's inflation rates and this year's projected inflation rates, I think we might be making a mistake by trying to freeze our taxes, to be honest with you guys. I think history shows us that we tend to create infrastructure deficits when we freeze our taxes. So I'm of a different mindset. I think we need to grow our tax base aggressively. And obviously I'm in the development game, so I'm biased in that front. But I just want to know if the RM has a plan, or if they're willing to sit down and maybe tackle economic development and other development within the RM to grow our tax base a little bit more aggressively, so that we can afford all of these inflationary increases and other increases. People want more amenities. You look at the different, like the city's looking at a water park. I'm sure there's things that we could be looking at an RM to attract people, pay for water services to all these different, homes and businesses. So I think we need to have a bit more of an aggressive plan, and I'd like to see that as something that council tackles. And I'm not opposed to hiring somebody and getting some third-party advice on that front, but there's definitely going to be some opportunity, and I think we need to be a little bit more armed and ready and arms wide open to businesses and residents to build buildings and houses in the RM.
Evan, you know that we broke away from Brandon, Elton and Cornwallis, and right now we're in the event of doing a development plan. I know that you came to one meeting. Did you talk to I want to say it was Mike that was here, and run some stuff by him, what you were thinking of as part of that development plan at that time? Or would you like to be able to reach out to him or through council with some ideas that we can forward towards urban planning system?
Yeah, so my question, I guess, or my comments are not so much directed from a planning perspective. They're more directed from an economic perspective. So I guess if we're going to attract a company to build on the Trans-Canada highway development that we're doing, what is the RM willing to do? The city's got different incentives, say a 5-year tax deferral, but in the long run, it could result in hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars of taxes that we're going to have access to down the road. So there's just different incentive tools from an economic perspective that would be really great for businesses, even residents. I mean, I think that, if we're going to allow and approve these different subdivisions, and then we want to make it attractive for them to get filled up, and let's get that tax base rolling in to the RM. And I'm more talking from an economic standpoint, the dollars and cents of it. How do we get the money flowing in quicker? How do we get the residents to encourage them to come build in the RM of Cornwallis? How do we encourage businesses to come build in the RM of Cornwallis? From that perspective, I'm looking for policies from council, and maybe not even just council. Like I said, I'm open to you guys consulting with third parties to get ideas. There's lots of different consultants out there that can advise on this too. So just to be a little bit more aggressive on that front, because I think the longer we wait for some of these developments to fill up, we kind of lose our advantage. If it takes 5 or 10 years, to fill a development up, we're losing momentum and tax base during that time. So
Sam has a comment for you.
Evan, I'm sorry, at the start of your questions there, I didn't recognize you. Evan, I will say, I do appreciate the questions that you just asked. You came into this council chamber, council room here, I'm going to say 3.5, 4 years ago. You shook the tree, and I'm appreciative of that. And I think every resident out there should really have listened in. You weren't mad. you shook us. It was 6 years ago, we appealed that subdivision. For everybody's information, Evan Keller is the owner of the industrial large subdivision 3-4 miles west of Brandon. If you ever go through Tim Hortons, I've shared that with council. A big map of Evan's subdivision is out there. We have been working at that 6 years. It's unfortunate that mentality around this council chamber has to change, not just for you, Evan, for the Rice subdivision. There's a developer that texted me yesterday. He's moving out of Shiloh. He's got a large chunk of land over there. Cornwallis is not friendly for development. We've got a developer in Shader, 30 empty lots are sitting there. That's $12 million worth of assessments. Folks, this council is not trained for economics. I'm glad you mentioned it. We need to engage with people like yourself. There's large business owners that we can invite here and teach us how to analyze lost opportunities. When I see these 10, 12 lots sitting there, Evan, you're pumping in a lot of money. I'll be honest, this municipality hasn't done anything. We should be out there, have engaged Dan Burns to get a water study. You need water out there. Evan, I'm not sure about sewer, but it's your development. We have done very little. In fact, we, at some point or another, we have put sand in your path, and that's not the way this municipality wants to grow. I got a text message yesterday from a resident in Shiloh, and I sat there and I was disappointed. I'm sitting on council. What have I done? I have tried, and I went outside of this council chamber and engaged in a conversation economically to get the lagoon site. And I engaged with Larry Penner. We got the ball rolling. The decision wasn't made here. There's other opportunities out there that councilors need to pick up the phone and start engaging, bring these concepts and ideas here. This tonight, just before the meeting, I got an email or a text message. And he's more than willing for me to share his name. Mr. Earl, the owner of Glenlee Golf Course. He wants council to drive, and we are somewhat, but he wants us to basically be in total control, work with our development officer and our engineer to drive to make that half section of his property highway commercial development. We hear it, Evan, around the council chamber, but we're not doing anything. We need to stop talking and start walking. He's basically begging this council to ask Meadowbrook to take over that water line. We haven't done anything. It will start. That conversation you basically, it's going to be heard all over the world. We need to start thinking totally different. This business of user pay, whoever brought that into this council chamber, I wish he would have done it. We went with that. They honestly think a developer has to pay anything. We're going to go out there and collect maybe $500,000 worth of tax dollars. At the end of the day, when you're all built out, what have we done? Nothing. Same thing with developers in Shader, the Rice subdivision, your subdivision out on Hunter Road, Evan. This council really needs to be educated how to make money. Saving money, we can do it on our own, but how to do a proper cost analysis. And we need guys like you, other very knowledgeable business people before we maybe go hire a consultant. I think you guys would be more than willing to come and educate us. That's why I made that comment before. We need to spend our time engaging with the people that have successful businesses. How do they do it instead of going to these conferences? That's what I meant. Stop going to these conferences. Bring you folks in here after supper for an hour or two and get the ball rolling. Nobody is trained on economics. And we have prime real estate out there, folks. I'm talking to every resident out there. We better engage ourselves to, instead of putting more gravel on roads, we need good roads. Don't get me wrong, folks. We need to invest like this individual. And I didn't know Kevin's going to be on here in infrastructure that will bring in development for the long-term, basically, tax base of this municipality. Last year, I'm going to make a comment here. A lot of people don't know. Jacobson and Grinder, or Jared Jacobson, built a multi-million-dollar hockey rink. I was actually totally embarrassed, folks, as an elected official. The building went up, found out he didn't have water. Municipalities got no service out in that area. Folks, we want to be I call the cash cow, and Mike alluded to it there. We call out for money, but what are we doing physically, action, and putting things in place to make it easier for those places? Those two big businesses very close to Brandon are a real concern to me, because we do not provide any services there. The city might just say, folks, we're gonna start the process of annexation. Your property out there, I think, is a long ways away. I'm more than willing to put my gloves on, tie my boots and say, let's partner with Evan and any other development. How can we do things? Base our decisions on dollars, not on policies and ideas, user pay. That user pay, we need to brainwash ourselves to get it out of our head and start increasing these areas of opportunity. The bare land is sitting there and we're not getting a dime for it except for the weeds. So thanks, Evan. I'm going to take that conversation to heart. You shook the tree once here about 2.5 years ago. You shook it again tonight. You gave us some ideas. I'm going to take it to the next step with council. I'm going to bring some ideas here and we'll work with you. I'm committed.
Awesome. Yeah, no, thanks, guys. I do appreciate everyone's time that they do put into council. I do realize it is a pile of work, so I don't take the investment you guys all make lightly. But yeah, I just wanted to share some ideas. So I'll leave it at that. I'll be signing off right now. I got to run, but thanks for letting me speak tonight.
Thanks, Evan. All good questions.
Is there anyone online that would like to ask some questions or make some comments?
Yes, John Pelcher calling. I have a couple of questions. Good evening, by the way, and I'm finding this very informative tonight. There was some very good questions asked, and I like what I'm seeing or hearing. A lot more positivity. Mr. Keller made some very, very important comments. As a business owner myself, I understand what he's saying. If we don't have any economic growth in this municipality, we will be increasing taxes forever. My question is, has the RM received a final cost proposal on the sewage project in Chater?
No. It's coming though.
Okay. My second question is, and I guess this has to do with what has been discussed this evening. What is the thinking of the council as a whole on how this would be funded?
You're talking about the Chater project, John?
Yes.
That's a good question. I don't know if we've sat down and really discussed that totally, because we don't know what the end result is going to be for a cost. Now, the reason that our engineer hasn't got it in totally is because we were held back a little bit on the pumping station and the side that the main line was going to be to that pumping station on, I want to say it's Main Street. So we've kind of got that figured out, and he's just finalizing stuff the way I understand it. And we should be having a resident meeting with you folks out there in the near future.
Okay, good. Has the administration and council done any kind of cost analysis on the lost opportunity on revenue on the vacant 30 lots that have been here for 13 years? That's part of the question regarding my previous question regarding if the council is thinking if this is going to be a local improvement, or is this going to be through a government grant, or etc., or a gas tax money. The 30 lots sitting for 13 years is a lot of lost revenue. As you know, there's been 3 new homes built this year alone in the subdivision. We are lacking the water lines and the infrastructure. There has been a lot of interest in town for people who want to move out to our community. That would generate a huge amount of money for the RM. What I'm trying to ask is, if this council thinks for 1 minute that this should be local improvement, I would be very disappointed in that justification. The gas tax money is used for this very reason, infrastructure, and I feel that it should be used for that reason. 30 homes, do the math. And once that infrastructure is in place, that revenue is there coming every year. It's no different than Mr. Keller's investment he's put in. And many other developers who would love to spend money here. Mr. Earl, another prime example. This is all about the economics and increasing our tax base. And the bottom line is, what is this council and this administration going to do to bring in a bigger tax base? Questions open to anybody.
Okay, John. John, yes, it will be a local improvement. I mean, I don't want people in the southern part of the municipality pay. I live in Shader, folks. That's the reason I'm being so blunt here. And I don't think you expect, John, for the people in the southern part of the municipality to pay all of your sewage. What we're hearing from the government, we haven't got it in writing, or else the CEO can stop me here. It sounds like the project will be funded 50% by the Water Services Board, but they need the final cost, they need the engineering plan. However, the Reeve is right. We have not discussed it. We are that close to basically bringing to the finish line. Nobody has a vision. I have shared it. I have opposed this user pay garbage, and it is garbage because I'm going to tell you right now, John, I'm not going to economics. The minute people, those 100 lots, make a personal investment on that property value goes up. We don't need to go hire a tax man to tell us that. So what basically the mentality has been for a number of years, and we need to, I think this council has been basically, I'd say, advised over the last year, we're losing out on opportunity. So basically what this council, because we haven't done anything, our past history is saying they want those 100 properties to make a financial contribution. At the end of the day, all that revenue goes up and everybody else in this municipality benefits. That's not even logical thinking. Plus, that lost opportunity. It was, I think it was somebody from Grand Valley. That word's come up about 3 or 4 times. Lost opportunity. Gas tax money has been used for that lagoon. We got a real, I'd say a sweetheart deal to get access to that lagoon for the community of Chater. I wish there was more capacity, but we can deal with our engineer once we get this project to the finish line. But we need business people. I don't think this council can make that decision. And the reason I'm saying that, I'm going to be blunt here. When we struggle to put GPS on gravel trucks, how in the world can the people in this municipality have confidence that we're going to sit down, we're going to try to make it a user pay, or a John Pelche will pay for every hookup, and then go take your money, John, and just go buy something else. That's wrong. We need to look at those 30 empty lots over 13 years, because what's going to happen here, and we all know it, we heard it from a developer tonight, and I just told you of another developer. People are looking at properties out of town. This municipality is an affordable place to live. I want this municipality to sit down with business people that, and I'm not saying we can't add, but to come up with a fair number. What would be fair projecting 5, 10, 15 years out? Don't expect people to make a personal investment. The assessment goes up and basically at the end of the day, they're making an investment to sell 30 more lots. That needs to be taken into consideration. I don't have a number, but I think if we put the right people around the table, be open, fair, let the calculator, the economics do the work, I'm convinced it will happen. Because what's gonna happen here in Chater, folks? Terry, you listen, and Miles, that same formula, if you expect Chater people to pay for everything, I don't even want Dan Burns to look at a feasibility study because it's gonna be unaffordable. I'm looking at the 25 empty lots that a water system will bring in. Same thing out in Spruce Woods. We got a person that owns, I think it's 90 acres. He says, I'm moving out of town. He says, you guys, your past practice has shown you want the cash, you want the development, but you're not willing to go to bat. And I'm just going by past history. We have done little. It was our engineer in Meadowbrook. And I went behind this council's back, not in a dirty way. I sat down with him saying, what will it take to call a meeting to get access to that lagoon? We got it. And the only reason they gave us access to that lagoon, the Chater people never objected to pump water up there for pennies. They needed a water treatment plant and $1 million. They got it for $1,800. And
Yeah, I mean, that was a win-win situation for
exactly.
two parties.
And, I got criticized by this council. I sat down with basically our engineer and two of the owners from Meadowbrook. I paid for the lunch, folks, and I'm not scared to say I pushed this thing to have a meeting here and get this thing done. Yeah, there was a few hiccups, but I didn't do anything illegal. I did it for this municipality. I didn't do it for Meadowbrook. I didn't do it for Chater. I did it for this municipality. That's why I said earlier on, we need to go in a large system. That will solve a lot of these problems. And I will do my part to be open. I don't want anybody to pay for my sewage. I want to be treated fairly. So do those 99 other people.
I don't have any issue on a 50-50 split. Don't get me wrong. That seems fair enough to me. But what I don't understand and what I don't agree with is how many years this municipality has let these projects just sit idle. And it's mind-boggling. It's like a businessman going out and buying a bunch of land that he wants to build something on and then doesn't build anything on it. What good is it? You need a tax base. You need to increase the tax base. And Mr. Keller absolutely hit it on the head. As far as the future of the sewage and the growth in the community of Chater, I mean, there's another 100 possible lots here that could be built on. I mean, it's a gold mine. We're 5 minutes from Brandon. I mean, people, and we have a good water source. The people are looking seriously at these lots, but they're not serviced. And we need to get some infrastructure in place and get some tax base. That's all I'm going to say on it. I mean, I bought lots 13 years ago that are still sitting vacant for my children to build on. They're still vacant. We pay tax on them. They pay tax on them every year. It's very frustrating when you do this and you put your money up front and sit on it for 13 years. It doesn't make any sense. I hope this council takes a whole new approach. As Mr. Culler had said, we need to be more proactive. Procurement, absolutely. I agree with him on that also. That is definitely a huge issue. Anyways, that's all I have to say, and I thank you for your time.
John, I'll just make a comment. That's for anybody that's listening out there. The reason I brought in basically Grand Valley and Spruce Woods, those are two communities. They need that, whether it's water or sewer. Spruce Woods needs the sewer. Whatever this council decides in Chater, yes, we'll talk to Mr. Burns tomorrow, our engineer. Whatever is decided in Chater will set the tone for Spruce Woods and Grand Valley. If this council feels Water Service Board will pay 50%, the people will pay the other 50%, Don't even waste Dan Burns' time to do a feasibility study on water or continue with the lagoon project in Spruce Woods. This municipality, like I said before, we need to look at the economics, at the lost opportunity. And Spruce Woods needs wastewater, folks.
They
Yes,
absolutely do.
the comments that have been made, they can't afford it. It's our job to make it affordable. We gotta dig our heels in, put our gloves on, boots on, and say, what must we do? I didn't make.
Potential-
John,
The potential is there. Sorry,
There's
Sam.
been 8 reeves in the last 40 years. Every reeve has talked sewage in Spruce Woods. We are no further ahead. Actually, we're further ahead in the last year, basically, than in the last 40. We gotta stop talking and walking. And what I mean by walking, the municipality has to commit to a financial contribution. I'm not saying going wasting money, just push it over that finish line, just like we did with Mr. Penner. Larry Penner, we've got a verbal agreement where I think we're very successful in finding a piece of property. For the last 15 years, that's all we've been doing, looking for property. Well, then last year, we found one, and that's where I don't want to spend any more money in Spruce Woods. They need sewage. I don't want a feasibility study for $50,000 in Grand Valley. If the council feel that the end user has to pay it all. The 50% that comes from the government, that's not a municipality's contribution. That's for the province, that's our money. But I want to see a good, fair analysis done into these projects. Same thing with Mr. Keller up there. I do feel we should have been responsible to make a financial contribution to that service road. Because you got 12 lots that once he starts building, we're gonna get the money. What that formula was, I'm not sure, but I really hope that council will get back to Mr. Keller and say, okay, let's start talking. I think we owe you something. Might be $1, it might be $10, but at least to help. To what I find here, we seem to fight with developers. They're our bread and butter folks. We need to work with them. We need to partner with them. I use that word a lot. We need to partner with them and say, how can we move forward so it's a win-win? We always talk about a win-win. That's what it has to be. Yeah.
As any business owner, whose dream is to build their business, they will build it, they will come. That's the bottom line. And I'm not kidding you. The amount of traffic that's driving around in Chater looking at these lots is nonstop. And people are just so afraid of holding things. It doesn't make any sense to us. We are within 1 mile of a lagoon. This needs to be done. These 30 lots plus an additional 40 to 60 lots could be sold within the next 5 to 10 years and homes built. The tax revenue from that would be incredible. And then we can do more things for the municipality. We can help Spruce Woods. We can help Grand Valley out as a whole, as a community, as an RM. Anyways, I was really impressed with Mr. Keller's comments tonight and many other comments regarding the spraying and all of it. I hope council listens clearly to the taxpayers. I think they have spoken, and let's hopefully that we can move along and grow our base.
Excuse me, Donna, is it too early to give you the projected long-range study that we'll make a comment? Just what we've
We're
done.
working on it.
Yeah, well, yeah, just and tell them we're just the positive things.
Just a quick update. He's asking me to give that we currently are working on the rate study for the utility in Chater. I think that based on what I've seen with the numbers so far, it's looking positive. And if there is a reduction in rates, which we do anticipate there will be, we will be asking for those rates to be implemented on an interim basis while they are working on the finalization of those new rates, so that benefit will be seen by the residents of Chater right away. So
You may as well give them the projected numbers. It's not, even though it's not just tell them what you've You've come up with none. It's not finalized.
No,
I would.
I believe,
Yeah,
just based on the initial, it looks like the $2.96 will probably drop down to the $2.30 range, somewhere
That's
in there.
great. That's great news. I mean, I think this is all part and parcel of having Meadowlark online with us. I mean, it's a cash cow is what it is. And let's use some of that money to build the infrastructure to increase that.
and I will make a comment. The only reason there is a rate reduction is solely because of Meadowbrook. Meadowbrook is taking 4 to 5 times the water than the 51, 52 homes in Chater. So you can clearly see the extra water that Meadowbrook is using has impacted the water rate reduction. And I will say the Public Utilities Board, I mean, we worked at it hard and we spent a whole hour. I'm very confident they will agree because they don't want to see us putting too much money in the bank. And just for everybody's information, the water or the revenue that's generated by that utility stays in that utility. You can't basically go buy a truck with it. Some of it is going into administration, and the CEO has basically got some numbers that looks like the administration cost could drop as well. So there's some very positive feedback when you basically invite a developer like Meadowbrook to basically hook into that grid. And in turn, it gave us access to a lagoon. That saved us, in my opinion. I think it saved us well over $1 million.
I totally agree.
There was no resistance on their part whatsoever. They handed it over to our engineer and say, you make it work. And by the way, we've got a license, somebody that's listening out there. My understanding is from Dan Burns, the
license came through.
My understanding is he'll let us know tomorrow. It sounds like the license is finalized. Yeah, so that was
another question. I have one more question for Donna. Donna, are you finding, I know just recently I went on to paperless billing for the utility for the water. Are you finding it a lot less work involved, paperless as opposed to postage?
Yes. Yes.
Like, would it be beneficial? Would it be beneficial if everybody went paperless? Would that say?
Yeah, I think what you're saying is Bev emails you your bill now?
Yes, we just get emailed.
Okay, yeah. I mean, certainly, we could certainly do that for anyone who wishes to have it. And like you say, it does save the postage.
But does it save you much time? Obviously, it must save you some time.
Definitely would, because you're printing, you're folding, you're stuffing, you're putting, you're taking it to the post office. So it definitely does cut down on cost.
Yeah, so this is just one other little thing you can look at to reduce some costs. I mean, it's something, I mean, not everybody wants paperless, but I think the majority of the population probably wouldn't mind.
Yeah.
Anyways, I like the system, the way it works, paperless, and much approved. Thank you.
Carla has one more question.
Yeah, and somebody else was asking to, is all of council in attendance tonight? Yes. We have 2 council members that are online and 3 here in the office. And Carla has another question, if Carla would like to unmute.
Hi. It's probably a well-known answer for some, but not for me. So the question was, why do we keep the RM fire truck in Brandon? And is our RM garage heated?
Our garage is heated, and the water truck is kept at 13th Street because that's where the call center dispatches it from. And the Brandon Fire Department employs people to run it.
And it
goes with the other truck.
Yeah, but it is also a joint truck, so it's Elton and Cornwallis.
Right.
So we own it, they operate it.
Yes.
We don't have anybody go operate it.
We joint own it.
Yes.
And they operate it.
Yeah.
And I think we split, Donna can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Elton and Cornwallis split the cost of repairs on that truck. Is that right?
Regular maintenance is paid for by the city of Brandon.
Okay,
Yeah, so oil changes, that kind of stuff. They take care of that through, well, probably in the end we pay, because we pay a retainer to the city, right? So, and then, but Cornwallis and Elton also have an agreement, Carla. So every year we go through the invoices that we receive from the city, and every time the truck leaves the shop, we're proactively putting aside $200 each time the truck leaves the shop, so that when it's time to do a large maintenance item, or even to go towards replacement down the road, we will have some money set aside each year for that, so.
I just question in the event that we ever get to entertain the idea of a volunteer fire department, and having that truck closer to, you know, the Elton RM area.
Carla, I'll make a comment, and we have discussed it, Bill
Yeah.
and myself, and actually all of council. We've got a nice piece of property here, we're almost central, but we would need Elton to buy in. There's volunteer farmers out there that have their tankers, my understanding, that sit there full of water, 10,000 gallons. When you look, and you folks will see it with here when the CEO will put up the budget numbers. And actually I appreciate Councillor Westerberg's comment last year. We've got no control of that cost. They could come to us tomorrow and say, we're going from $56 to $196. It's out of our control. That's why I think long-term, not today or tomorrow, we really need to consider exactly what you're saying, a volunteer fire department, what must be done. And I don't think this should be council decision. Folks like yourself, Mike asked the question about fire. We need to get some people around in this room when this COVID thing blows over, hopefully it's soon. What can we do to basically, and invite Elton, what can we do to basically keep that $250,000 in our pocket? It's gonna cost infrastructure, but you have to think about it over 10 years with volunteers. And I don't mind that volunteer thing, but I think you will have to pay them. I mean, basically train them, you gotta be trained. So I really like council. We've got a lot of things going on. I think we should entertain the thought. Bring Elton first, saying, folks, can we get maybe 5 or 6 of your people in this room with 5 or 6 of ours, and just throw some ideas around. I like my Pizza Express pizza box thing. It's like pizza dough, basically. What's it say, Bill? Yeah.
you put the dough on the table and you mull it around until you come up with the right idea.
Exactly. That every situation we have. That's a good one, Charlie.
Or pound it out, whichever word works.
Yeah. But I think long term, if Whitegate can do it, and the town of Rapid City where Don is from, or that municipality, let's look at it.
Is there anyone else online who would like to make comments or ask questions before we finish for the evening? And again, for anyone online, feel free to email, even, ask questions, any ideas you might have. You can certainly email them in as well.
We don't have to cut it off tonight. You can email all that stuff in, and then we can mull it over amongst ourselves at a next committee meeting, or at the end of another meeting with inquiries, and then we can get back to the people if they so desire and go from there. But it would be all listed on YouTube in the minutes anyway. So yeah, we want the door to be always open.
I have a question.
Yes, Bob.
I'm just wondering if council has ever had any thoughts about term limits on how long somebody can sit on council, or is there something to that effect already?
There is not. Council as a whole is governed by the Municipal Act. So they're 4-year terms. And if a council member is reelected, that's up to you as the resident who is voting. So no, there is no legislation that says you're only allowed to be here for 4 terms or 5 terms. It's how long you as the ratepayer keeps putting them back into the chair.
Have you got an idea on a number that you would like to see?
Well, no, I don't necessarily have a number. I was just curious if there was such a thing. It just seems like maybe some counselors, like Sam has said, we've been doing the same thing for 40 years. So some of these counselors maybe have been around for 25 or 30. Maybe they should think about stepping away and letting some new blood in, new ideas, new approaches.
Bob, you're in total control and all your 4,800 people out there, if they want to basically vote us in, it's a democratic system. And I'm going to make a comment here. Good question, Bob. I would encourage you, basically, if you see a community leader out there, even yourselves, I will encourage you folks, get involved in this community. When I was approached 20 years ago, I thought, oh my goodness, I will honestly say, I've really enjoyed it. And actually the last 6 years, I get a new energy when you start talking to a person like Evan Keller, the business people, how you look at the opportunities and all that. I get energized. I got energized tonight. My thinking is like the delegation that came last year, procurement. We've got a long ways to go, folks. Yeah. We're gonna get it. I got a comment here from my employer on their website. We energize the world to make people's lives better. That's speaking to you folks out there. Protect what matters. We want to safety, I mean, our roads and all that, but protect our properties, basically through low cost. Do it right. I think we heard it tonight. Let's do it right, make it better, and do it together. That's when I log into my work site, every day I look at that. Stuff like that, when I see the opportunities out there, Bob, I have no problem if somebody wants to sit on council for 40 years. He obviously got voted in there, so the people have the confidence. But I'm going to challenge people tonight, like Mike did last year. Get out and put your name in or ask questions. What does it take? Folks, I'm going to encourage you. Anybody can sit here. It's a learning curve. I learn every day. I don't learn from one meeting to the next. I'm going to say I shouldn't be here. And I learned a lot tonight, and my way of thinking has changed, and I like to get challenged. I really like to get challenged, and I like to challenge council, and I want council to challenge me. But we've got a beautiful community, and it's going to take strong leadership and good, hardworking people with a vision to basically take us to the next level.
Stick together to take it to the next level.
Yeah, take it to the next level. So Bob, I know you're my neighbor, but I wouldn't worry too much. Basically, if a guy's been voted in for 45 years, he must obviously do something for some of those people that voted for him. But I will say, I've got a real strong desire to go to an at-large system. I think that will actually change some mindsets. I really believe, I have the confidence that system, I think, will and could work very positively. I see more of the positive side. The reason I'm saying that, councillors, and I know Kurt and myself, I'll speak for you, Kurt, we try to tend to give all the road and whatever issues over to supervisor. That's the way it should be. I would really like to see the next time we get a supervisor, that person calls the shots. We need to focus on some of the things we're talking tonight. Basically, procurement, the tenders and all that. Stick to that, what you got elected for, not to become a road warrior out there. Let that up to our public works department. I think that if we go to an at-large system, I really believe that will happen. And I think you're going to see a different mindset out there, because now those people on the north side have to basically think about those people in the south. And we are, I'm not saying we are, vice versa. I want those people in the south to basically go to every community, knock on doors and say, what are the issues here? We're going to work at this together. Let's do it together. There's a question.
So I guess, a follow-up question then is, are there other municipalities that have a large system, or are we the only one that still does, or what's the numbers on that?
You know what, I've never
Yeah.
looked.
There is
but
some that are at
definitely
large.
There
Yeah.
are some that are at large. we definitely would not be out of the norm, for sure, if we switched over to being at large.
There are some with a lot more wards too,
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure,
Mhm.
yeah.
other than 2
And
wards.
someone is asking the question, do residents request at large? Residents could, but with the Municipal Act and the Elections Act, council is actually required to review their ward bylaw when an election is coming and make any changes at that time. And if I'm not mistaken, because it's been a while, but I believe if we do make a change to go to at large, there will be a public hearing involved. So residents can come forward and voice their opinions on, you know, would they like to see that or would they not? So.
Okay,
Oh, that's great. I love that public hearing, let the people, I personally, we debated last time, folks, when Reeve, Dalgleish was in charge, and, I think we were close. I had reservations back then. I really did. In fact, I think it was probably me that was on the fence, but no, I'll be honest, I'll
I
be
don't
transparent.
care.
I remember Heather and Mike were, and Heather brought it to the table, okay, I'll give her credit for that, but I had some reservations that I'm not gonna share, but now, after what's going on out there, we seem to be stagnant in some areas. I really believe counselors through that will be challenged, and there's nothing wrong with a challenge. I really believe their desire to represent everybody, I think, will get more traction. That's one of the main reasons I'd like to see an at-large system.
Another question was, what are the benefits if we are at large, as I'm not familiar? And then what exactly does it mean and how would it be different? So if it's okay, I can sort of explain this. So a ward bylaw is what it's called, and the ward bylaw is put in place for an election purpose only under the Municipal Act. And so basically what it does is it breaks the section of the municipality down, and when we look at putting wards into place, we're supposed to try and make those wards as equal by population as we can, so that there is an as equal as can be number of voters in each ward. So the ward is there specifically for an election purpose. There really is no other specific purpose anymore, really. For
Donna?
breakdown.
Can I just throw something in?
Yeah.
There's about, I think, 600 voters on CFP Shiloh that live in property-wise in the area of Cornwallis. He can vote, but I don't think any time more than 10% voted. But in the meantime, they have more or less no say. And next to, I think, beside the animal control that we provide for them, there's nothing else. All the rest is done by the base, garbage, snow clearing, and so on. So that's a little throw off. And we're almost at the end, I think. I would like for all the people that had comments, there's some important comments, important things mentioned. Some of them will take probably 2, 3, 4 years to implement, but there's other things that can be done quickly, or at least can be pushed onto the table and be discussed. And I don't know if there will be a big yay or a big nay. For people that worked with me and found that I was always the open door and open here. I'm a good listener. That doesn't mean that a lot of times I will follow what I listen to. But in the meantime, this is my last hurrah on the can, whatever. I'm not running for re-election. Thank you.
Yeah, I just have one final comment. I really appreciate these types of meetings. I've learned a lot in the last couple that I've attended, and I really appreciate them.
Thanks, Bob.
I'm glad that we could give everybody the opportunity. And again, we totally appreciate the comments, the questions, and how everybody can move forward in a positive manner. And I just want to say that the door is always open, the phone is always on.
Okay,
I'm gonna make a comment. I'm with Kurt and with Bill. I personally pushed for this last fall. We made a couple of major decisions where we probably didn't engage the communities enough, like the bylaw in Spruce Woods, which really, there was a provincial jurisdiction law already. The lagoon up here, we weren't required to advertise, but I did suggest to Bill, it's time to the Reeve, time to get the community involved. And I will say, the one we had in October and this one, you guys are challenging us, and that's what a council needs, not just this one. Elected officials sometimes just need to hear it a little bit differently, and yeah, it's a little bit different with nobody in the audience, but I'm enjoying this. You guys can do it right from your armchair. I really appreciate the time that you folks take, the 2-3 hours. A lot has been said. I learn a lot, and we're gonna go into a budget. My vision is budget year. We got 2.5 months to approve a budget. We're gonna work hard. At least I will. I'm gonna go through that budget line item by line item, looking for that opportunity. Are we making the right decision? Just because we did that last year doesn't mean we have to do it this year. You've challenged us, and I'm up for the task. Yeah, and I want to say thanks for taking the time to dial in. And we're gonna do our best to give you a budget that is favorable and reasonable. Now, I can't predict any numbers right now. I really want to see what the tenders, we need to get a couple of our large tenders out there. The gravel budget is a large number. We got to look at these graders to see when we're going to trade them in, because that has a huge impact on our bottom line. I don't want to see old junkers out there. We need to maintain the roads, but are we doing it right? And again, this GPS system, I think we can learn a lot. I think I'm leaning on that GPS system to save this municipality money and to make us more efficient. If you're more efficient, you make better decisions. Thanks again.
thank you, everybody.
Thanks again.